If you're over 50 and you've noticed that names slip your mind more often, or you walk into a room and forget why you're there, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not powerless. I want to share something with you today that genuinely changed how I think about brain health, and it's backed by some fascinating research that's emerged over the last decade. This isn't about expensive supplements or complicated routines. It's about understanding how your brain actually works as you age and what you can do about it starting today. Here's what surprised me when I started researching this topic. For decades, scientists believed that after a certain age, your brain was essentially locked in place. The neurons you had were all you'd ever have, and cognitive decline was inevitable. But research over the past 20 years has completely overturned that idea. Your brain has something called neuroplasticity, which means it can literally rewire itself, form new connections, and even grow new neurons well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. Studies from institutions like the Salk Institute and UC San Francisco have shown that the adult brain is far more adaptable than we ever imagined. So, when someone tells you that brain decline is just part of getting older, they're working with outdated science. The real question isn't whether your brain can stay sharp as you age. The question is what specific things support that process. And that's what I want to walk through with you today. I'm going to share 5 habits that have solid research behind them, and I'll explain not just what to do, but why it works. Because when you understand the mechanism, you're more likely to stick with it. Let's start with something that might seem almost too simple: physical movement. And I'm not talking about running marathons or spending hours at the gym. Research published in the journal Neurology followed over 1,500 people for several years and found that those who engaged in moderate physical activity, even just brisk walking for 30 minutes most days of the week, had significantly better cognitive function than sedentary individuals. But here's the fascinating part that explains why this works. When you move your body, your heart pumps more blood to your brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients. But that's not all. Exercise also triggers the release of a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain cells. It helps existing neurons stay healthy and encourages the growth of new ones, particularly in the hippocampus, which is the region responsible for memory and learning. What I find really encouraging about this research is that you don't need to become an athlete. A study from the University of British Columbia found that regular brisk walking increased the size of the hippocampus in older women. Just walking. The key is consistency. If you can build a habit of moving your body most days, even if it's just a 20 or 30-minute walk around your neighborhood, you're doing something genuinely protective for your brain. And if you have mobility limitations, seated exercises, water aerobics, or even regular stretching routines can provide similar benefits. The point is to get your blood flowing and your body moving in whatever way works for you. Now let's talk about something that's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. Food, and specifically how what you eat directly affects your brain function. There's been incredible research in recent years on something called the Mediterranean diet and its impact on cognitive health. This isn't a fad diet or restrictive plan. It's based on the traditional eating patterns of people in countries like Greece, Italy, and Spain. We're talking about plenty of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fish, olive oil, nuts, and beans, with moderate amounts of dairy and limited red meat. Multiple large studies have found that people who follow this eating pattern have a lower risk of cognitive decline. A study published in Neurology that followed nearly 1,000 older adults found that those who adhered most closely to a Mediterranean-style diet had brain volumes equivalent to being 5 years younger than those who didn't follow the diet. 5 years. That's not a small difference. But again, let's talk about why this works, because understanding the mechanism makes it less mysterious. The Mediterranean diet is rich in antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds. Your brain is particularly vulnerable to oxidative stress and inflammation, both of which can damage neurons over time. Foods like berries, leafy greens, fatty fish, and olive oil contain compounds that help protect your brain cells from this damage. There's also fascinating research on omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, which is found in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines. Your brain is about 60% fat, and DHA is a crucial component of brain cell membranes. Studies have shown that people with higher levels of omega-3s in their blood have better cognitive function and larger brain volumes. If you don't eat fish, walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds also provide omega-3s, though in a different form that your body has to convert. The practical takeaway here is simple. Try to include fatty fish in your diet twice a week. Add more vegetables and fruits. Use olive oil instead of butter when you can, and reach for nuts as a snack instead of processed foods. You don't have to be perfect. Even small shifts toward this eating pattern can make a difference. The third habit might be one you've heard about before, but probably not in the context of brain health: sleep. And I'm not just talking about getting enough hours, though that matters. I'm talking about quality sleep, particularly deep sleep. Here's what's happening in your brain while you sleep that makes it so crucial for cognitive health. During deep sleep, your brain essentially takes out the trash. There's a system called the glymphatic system that becomes much more active during sleep. It flushes out toxic waste products that accumulate in your brain during the day, including beta amyloid, which is the protein that builds up in Alzheimer's disease. Research from the University of Rochester showed that this cleaning process is up to 10 times more active during sleep than during waking hours. When you don't get enough quality sleep, these waste products don't get cleared out properly, and over time, that accumulation can contribute to cognitive problems. A study published in Nature Communications found that people who consistently got less than 6 hours of sleep per night had significantly higher rates of cognitive decline over several years compared to those who got 7 to 8 hours. But here's where it gets tricky for many people over 50. Sleep patterns often change with age. You might find it harder to fall asleep, or you wake up more during the night, or you wake up too early and can't get back to sleep. Some of this is related to natural changes in your circadian rhythm, but a lot of it is also influenced by habits and environment. If sleep is a struggle for you, there are some practical things that can help. Keep your bedroom cool, ideally around 65 to 68 degrees. Use blackout curtains or an eye mask to keep it dark. Avoid screens for at least an hour before bed, because the blue light can interfere with melatonin production. Try to keep a consistent sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up around the same time each day, even on weekends. And if you're lying awake for more than 20 minutes, get up and do something calm and quiet until you feel sleepy again, rather than lying there frustrated. The goal is to strengthen the association between your bed and sleep. Now let's talk about something that's often overlooked but incredibly powerful for brain health: social connection. And I mean real, meaningful interaction with other people, not just scrolling through social media or sending quick text messages. There's compelling research showing that social isolation and loneliness are significant risk factors for cognitive decline. A meta-analysis published in the Journals of Gerontology reviewed dozens of studies and found that people with strong social connections had a 50% lower risk of dementia compared to those who were socially isolated. Why does this matter so much for your brain? When you engage in conversation, when you navigate social situations, when you maintain relationships, you're giving your brain a workout. You're processing complex information, reading social cues, recalling shared experiences, and adapting your communication. All of that stimulates multiple brain regions and helps maintain cognitive function. But beyond the cognitive stimulation, social connection also affects your stress levels, your sense of purpose, and your emotional well-being, all of which influence brain health. I know that maintaining social connections can get harder as you age. Friends move away, people retire and lose workplace relationships. Mobility issues can make it harder to get out. But this is one area where it's worth making an effort. Join a club or group around something you enjoy, whether that's gardening, books, hiking, or cards. Volunteer for a cause you care about. Take a class to learn something new. Make regular phone or video calls with family and friends part of your routine. Even having 1 or 2 close relationships that you nurture can make a meaningful difference. The key is regular, genuine interaction where you're engaged and present. The fifth habit is one that might seem less obvious, but the research is really compelling. Learning new things, and I mean genuinely new, not just doing familiar puzzles or the same crossword you've been doing for years. When you challenge your brain to learn something completely new, you create new neural pathways. A fascinating study from the University of Texas at Dallas had older adults learn multiple new skills simultaneously, including digital photography and quilting. After 3 months, brain scans showed that the participants had significant improvements in memory function, and their brain activity patterns resembled those of younger adults. The key word here is challenge. Your brain benefits most from learning that requires sustained effort and attention. Learning a new language, picking up a musical instrument, mastering a new technology, taking up painting or woodworking, learning to dance. These activities require your brain to form entirely new networks of connections. And the beautiful thing is, the research shows that it's never too late to start. People in their 70s and 80s who take on new learning challenges show measurable improvements in cognitive function. What doesn't work as well is doing the same mental activities you've always done, even if they feel challenging. If you've been doing crossword puzzles for 20 years, your brain has already built efficient pathways for that specific skill. You'll get better at crosswords, but you're not creating the same kind of new neural growth as you would from learning something completely unfamiliar. So, if you've been thinking about learning something new but telling yourself you're too old, I want to encourage you to reconsider. Your brain is designed to learn throughout your entire life. It just needs you to give it the opportunity. Now, I want to be honest with you about something important. None of these habits are magic bullets. There's no single thing you can do that will guarantee you'll never experience cognitive decline. Genetics play a role. Health conditions play a role. And some degree of change in cognitive function is a normal part of aging. What these habits do is give you the best possible chance of maintaining your cognitive health for as long as possible. They're about stacking the odds in your favor. And here's something else that's important to understand. You don't need to implement all 5 of these habits perfectly starting tomorrow. In fact, trying to overhaul your entire life at once is usually a recipe for burnout and giving up. Pick 1 or 2 that resonate with you and that feel manageable given your current situation. Maybe you start with a daily walk and adding more fish and vegetables to your diet, or maybe you prioritize improving your sleep and joining a weekly social group. Build those habits until they feel natural, and then consider adding another one. The research consistently shows that the combination of these habits has a compounding effect. People who engage in regular physical activity, eat a brain-healthy diet, get quality sleep, maintain social connections, and keep learning new things have significantly better cognitive outcomes than those who only do 1 or 2 of these things. But that doesn't mean you need to do everything perfectly all at once. Progress, not perfection, is what matters. I also want to address something that comes up a lot when people talk about brain health. Supplements. You've probably seen ads for brain supplements, nootropics, or memory pills. The truth is, for most people who eat a reasonably varied diet, the research on supplements for cognitive health is much less convincing than the research on these lifestyle habits. There are a few exceptions. If you're deficient in certain nutrients like vitamin B12 or vitamin D, supplementation can help. And there's some evidence for omega-3 supplements if you don't eat fish. But the multi-ingredient brain supplements you see advertised often don't have strong research backing up their claims. Before you spend money on supplements, focus on these fundamental habits. They have far more evidence supporting them, and they affect your overall health, not just your brain. One more thing I want to mention. If you're noticing significant changes in your memory, or thinking that are interfering with your daily life, or if people close to you are expressing concern, don't just assume it's normal aging. Talk to your doctor. There are many treatable conditions that can affect cognitive function, from thyroid problems to vitamin deficiencies to medication side effects to sleep disorders. Getting these identified and addressed can make a real difference. So, let me bring this all together for you. Your brain has an incredible capacity to adapt and stay healthy as you age, but it needs the right support. Move your body regularly, even if it's just walking. Eat more vegetables, fruits, fish, and healthy fats. Prioritize quality sleep and create habits that support it. Maintain meaningful social connections and make time for genuine interaction with others. Keep learning new things that genuinely challenge you. These aren't complicated or expensive interventions. They're accessible to most people, and the research backing them is solid. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these habits are you already doing? Which one are you thinking about starting with? And if you've noticed changes in your cognitive function since making lifestyle changes, I'd really like to hear about your experience. The community here learns as much from each other as from the information I share. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos. And remember, taking care of your brain is one of the most important investments you can make in your future. You have more control over this than you might think.